and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Business Point here on Global Television, your hub for topical discussions in the world of business, where we look at tech innovation as well as government policies. I am Queen Agaba. And today, we turn our spotlight into a crucial conversation, which is salary policy delays and the impact of workforce efficiency. Here in the FCT, recent strikes by judiciary workers, primary school teachers and local government staff has disrupted public services, all linked to the delayed implementation of the 70,000 naira minimum wage and other unresolved entitlements. Despite promises from the government, many sectors remain in limbo, affecting not just governance but also economic productivity. What does this mean for business performance, for labor morale and investor confidence? Joining me to unpack these issues is a political economist, Adefolari Olamilekon, who will help us explore the wider economic impact of these wage policy delays. Many thanks for joining me on the program, Mr. Adefolari.
Thanks for having me, and a very good morning to all our viewers out there.
Thank you. But what would you say is, the primary economic impact of these policy delays, salary policy delays and workforce efficiency, particularly in the public sector?
I think very interesting and very instructive that this particular scenario is not what we really want in our public sector, and in the sector that is really happening in the judiciary, as you mentioned, and teachers, that is the education sector. Although we have had similar issues in other sectors of the economy, particularly in other agencies of government, but this particular one in the judiciary, that is quite there. I mean, for me, from my own understanding as an economist, focus on it's quite distracting and not what we really want in terms of growing our economy, driving our economy, even FCT economy at this specific. But on the other hand, as what impact does it have economically? Definitely there will be an impact of this on both individuals who are the workers as well as the institutions that they work for on the FCT, judiciary or education sector. Let's first take the individual, for instance. Their salaries are not paid. Definitely what will happen is that their income, their living standard is already shrinking as a result of poor income remuneration that is not coming to them because of the lack of salary being paid. Then also in terms of what their welfare packages, maybe at home, people with their dependents, their family members, and their utility bills they need to settle is already piling up. And one very threatening and very dangerous aspect of owing worker salary that it kept workers into debt. As we are speaking right now, who knows how many of those workers that have been owing salaries are already piling up debt because they are owing salary and they are expecting salary to be paid so they can go to offset their debt. And that is on the side of the individual workers being impacted economically. That institution itself, we know that the judiciary is not an income-making or a profit-making organization for the government, but there are organizations, private organizations that are attached that deals with issues that will bring income to them, that will deal with issues that will bring profit to them, and that will be expecting the judiciary to service them one way or the other. Talking about affidavit swearing, talking about satisfied through copy that will be obtained by the court of the judiciary. Another document that will enhance business activities within FCT and outside Nigeria, or generally inside Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So one way or the other, the activities of strike for the judiciary workers and their salary not being paid has already affected both the public service in the area that they need to generate funds for the government, and private sector that's supposed to come in and pay certain money so that government can generate funds at the court level, and the businesses that are supposed to generate funds as a result of documents they're supposed to obtain from the court already been returned. And both the banking, financial sector, manufacturing sector, all of them will rely on the court, on the judiciary for one document or the other so that they can continue to do their business. But as we speak right now in FCC, it has been grounded as a result of the strike. And the workers are also, they have not been paid their salary. So on a triple angle, the private business angle, the government institution itself, the judiciary, as well as the individual work for the judiciary are already in economic mess as we speak right now, because money is not flowing through, either coming from the private sector into the public institution, and salary is not also being paid to the individual who are working. So it's a multiplied economic challenges that those people in that sector are faced as right now.
Okay, when public sector workers experience these instability, and their particularly wage instability, their reduced purchasing power also impacts consumer spending, which, like you mentioned, directly affects businesses. And then disrupted public service also increases operational delays, particularly for private firms relying on government approvals or legal processes. But can you explain how salary delays in the public sector might have a ripple effect on private sector productivity?
Very simple. For instance, let's take, for instance, workers in that particular sector, their salaries are not being paid. When salaries are paid, there are several deductions that are being made. Pension deduction is made, loans deduction are made, credit deduction are made, and some of them also have opportunity to involve in one business or the other that they tie their salaries to. So all the dependent institutions, businesses that depend on those deductions, as you speak right now, they won't be getting that deduction because the salaries are not being paid. That's on one hand. Then on the other hand, the individual who owns supposed to collect that salary, as I earlier pointed out, majority of them will be going into borrowing, majority will be going into debt as we speak right now. But based on what you have asked in terms of this particular salary issue, it goes a long way to reduce not just the potential ability of those institutions and people who are working in that institution to contribute to the general growth, either through financial growth, either through a productive growth, either through resource-wise growth or broader perspective growth of the economy. It has already been strained because of this lack of payment of salaries. And again, government also deduct taxes on those salaries. It also brings about shortage of taxes that will be coming from that sector, particularly income taxes of civil servants or federal servants that have been stopped right now because their salaries are not paid. So because of that, all these deductions that are not coming through because of these salaries not being paid will definitely affect the gross income to the government on one side, the gross income and profit income to private sector who depend. Is it pension administrator? Is it the credit loan or that are giving those individual loans? Or the mother also has a credit and thrift society in their organization that they also contribute money to. And let's also not forget, what about if someone, one of the staff there bought a house? In regards to the payment of that house, or in regards to the payment of that property, as you speak like that, because the salary is not being paid, that is not happening. And don't also forget that institutions that depend on all the financial credibility within that sector is on standstill because salaries of workers have not been paid. So it's a wider implication on the economy. But as we go into the discussion, we begin to explain and highlight the difficulties and challenges that this particular issue is bringing on board to the Nigerian economy.
Well, over time we've seen the signing of MOUs with unions, government agencies and councils, but they've defaulted on salary timelines. For instance, in the FCT, council chairman failed to implement the 70,000 naira wage months after agreeing to it, and then there have been questions about the adequacy of wage budgeting and policy coordination. What does this situation, reveal about particularly the government's wage planning and fiscal management?
I think it is based on revenue income that is coming to the government institution. It's like this, FCT council areas are not able to meet up with 70,000 naira minimum wage for teachers and for some of their workers. We also need to weigh into the attributes and the features of those council areas. What is coming to them when it comes to revenue generation? Whether they are IGR, or they are the one they normally get from pension, they normally get from federal government, or the one they normally get from FCT themselves. So, if the resources, financial resources getting so shrink for this set of people, or for this set of councils, definitely they will not be able to meet up with their wage payment. But on the other hand, it also calls for action in the area of what are they doing in resource mobilization by independent revenue generation by the council. Because for me, it's like the councils, or it's not just the area council in the all the 74 local governments in Nigeria are always working in line for who will come from the federal government and from the federal allocation, FAC allocation, monthly allocation, and that's what they rely on. So they are not doing anything genuinely to really raise the independent revenue generation up to the state whereby they can have extra for themselves and be able to meet up. And again, we also need to understand the political arrangement or political economy within the area council and the terms of local government. Most of them are in debt. You could recall that the recently federal government wanted to borrow money, and the local thought that the 21.4 billion that federal government wants to borrow was just federal government. It also includes state. And once such money comes to state, they will tell you that they are using it for local government development. And when they are deducting money for local, when they are paying back those loans, they deduct alongside local government revenue. So it affects them one way or the other. And FCT has also been in that light also, because as I think like FCT's debt is close to 7 billion or thereabouts, or even more than that, alongside what federal government is doing. So it's all about the prioritization of all the resources, financial resources of all those area council, and how they're utilizing it. And what we need to advocate right now is that they should play less on debt. Because most of them, the moment the council chairman comes in, before you know it, bounce will strap on him, we begin to borrow money here and there. And before you know it, the loans will be ballooned, the borrowing will be ballooned, and they will not be able to pay. So it is workers that normally suffer some of these issues at the end of the day that are starting to pay. And not that they cannot pay the 7,000 minimum, just that they are looking at what they are getting, and they are looking at prioritizing what's more important and what is. And that's why at this point in time, the Amak area council, civil service, teachers in that council are suffering in terms of minimum wage payment at this point.
Okay, but let's just turn over to the risk of these shutdowns following this failure of implementation. We've seen courts shut down, local councils, and all of that. But what are the risks of these institutional shutdowns, particularly to like the courts and then the local councils down to business growth, particularly?
I think very instructive. One thing we notice that is a thin line between the judiciary shutting down, the teacher shutting down, the council shutting down, is that government administrative services for the general public is now shut down. You can't get any services from the court. You can't get any services from the school. Student can't go to school. Then the council itself that also has some administrative work to do for the council are not functioning. So one way or the other, one, they are losing funds, they are losing resources, they are wasting, they are shrinking the efficiency and effectiveness of who's going to government state. They are shrinking it. And most times when things like this happen, it is the general public that suffer for it. Take for instance, the council that are closed down. There are money that comes to the council on monthly basis, on daily basis. Because of this shutdown that they can't come. The news money can't come. The same thing with the courts. All the resources that are supposed to be coming, financial resources that are supposed to be coming, they are not coming. The schools that are supposed to be offering education, learning for children is not open. And you also remember that there are businesses that are attached to some of those schools, either primary school or secondary school, and in the state that it could be now all the national. So we are losing financial resources. We are losing, knowledge as a result of school being shut down, and also losing efficiency and effectiveness in our governance administrativeness, both in the court places as well as in area council places. But for the court region, cases, either murder cases, whether robbery cases, whether criminal cases, whatever cases that could be in the court is now being stored because the judges are not fit, the workers are not there, and now it will be a long road to justice for whoever needs justice at the court at this point. And again, don't forget that most of those courts also attend to issue of financial issues, maybe dispute between banks and individual and corporate bodies, and all this will be delayed because the courts are not open. So it's a long walk, or a long road to justice at the court level. It's also a very long mile for administrative effectiveness and efficiency in our area councils, and also a loss of human capital development on the part of our primary school and secondary school that includes, and because of the primary school teachers are not available to teach children at this point in time.
Okay, Mr. Adefolari, what are the potential consequences, or better still, if these delays continues, what are the long-term consequences, particularly as regards development and then human capital productivity?
For next thing, human capital productivity, for instance, human capital productivity in this way are not tools. Consider these workers who are working in the court, the ones working in the local government council in FCT, and the teachers. Now, human capital capacity, development of these people that have already been set in place, that they're supposed to be using their knowledge and understanding to carry out services, now stop. But in the sense that they cannot function as expected. So we are wasting a lot of resources, human resources in that area. They talk about the children that are supposed to be in school, that are supposed to be learning. They're also wasting their time at home. There's no knowledge to be acquired. There's no new learning for them. So they're also wasting. So the development that's supposed to happen at that primary level of human capital is also being lost. So we are losing human capital in a very massive way in FCT because the courts are shut down, the area council are shut down, and the primary school teachers or secondary school teachers are not available to teach. So human capital is being lost. And it's big consideration before we can recover some of these aspects. Because human capital is one of those long-term gains that come in a very long way. If you invest in human capital, you don't reap it today. It's not something that you invest in, you want to reap tomorrow. It takes a long time because that human resources have to be developed and developed in a level that before you can begin to give back. At this point in time, we are losing human power in terms of resources. We are losing the resources, we are losing intelligence, we are losing intellectual they're supposed to bring on to spur in governance, in education, and in our judiciary system. We are losing all. It's a big consequence to the economy. But also, many people may not see it. They may think it's just LCT, but at the end of the day, by the time we begin to recount the consequences in terms of either in numeric form or in other form, we begin to understand that this is not supposed to happen to anything at this point in time, and Nigeria in general.
And then for development, what happens?
But he has already
Yeah.
human development has been stopped, physical development has been stopped, and the soft side of development has been stopped. I don't know forget it also affects the infrastructure. Even the infrastructure can be seen in two ways, social infrastructure and economic infrastructure. Both has been affected. Social infrastructure has been affected, economic infrastructure has been affected, particularly the court. They even take the local council for instance. If there's any contract, any of those councils carry that right now, either supply of goods and services or provision of road infrastructure or whatever any of those councils provide. Particularly because of this council shutdown, those work will be stopped. Even if those work are going on, it will be still later in a form. And guess what? It's going to come back as a revitalized, what they call it, a revisit exercise because those contractors may ask for a review of their contract sum because they will begin to give excuses that FX change has changed, FX change and perfected naira devaluation. So whatever they have quoted for that business before has to be revisited. So it's going to be another cost, financial cost on the council. Even if it is the court, there's also engaging in any contract, supply, building, construction at any point in time. It will also affect them. Remember that cost use printing materials, papers, and the rest of them. If there will be any supply of any of such to the court, whoever the contractor will be, can call for a review of his contract and say, when you give me the contract, this was the amount, but now FX has affected the valuation of the contract has affected the will bring excuse, and there will be another additional cost on the court. So on a broader level, development has been stalled as a result of this particular exercise, either strike or by the teachers, by the judiciary workers, as well as the close down of area council by the staff of those area councils. That's really stall development in every sector that we can name it, either by financial resources or material resources or physical resources has been stalled, and it has a big consequence on the economy of FCT and Nigeria's life.
Well said, Mr. Adefolari. Thank you for your contribution so far. But in 1 minute, I'm just going to ask you what practical solution you will recommend so that we can prevent future wage-related strikes and delays like this, or maybe how can the government balance fair wage and also better economy?
I think for me, first and foremost, wages for workers is not negotiable. Once you agree to pay 10 naira to workers, pay them the 10 naira. But on the part of workers, and we also need to be very, very careful when we are asking for wages. In most of the industrial sector in Nigeria, particularly workers from different sectors in Nigeria, they normally compare what they are earning with what others are earning in other development countries or in other African countries. We should weigh our wages based on the scenario of our economic situation. Because of the economy, you don't expect me to begin to earn what someone in Ghana is earning. When I know the situation of economy in Ghana is quite different from what the situation of economy in Nigeria. Although on the global scale, global economy has its peculiar environmental consequence on each nation's economy. So workers should be very careful when they begin to do comparing analysis with what a workers in Ghana, in Togo, in South Africa are earning. They want such earning to be also be duplicated in Nigeria. They should be very careful when it comes to that. But for government part, once you agree to pay them what you want to pay. And for the council chairman, please avoid loan, avoid borrowing, because it affects the revenue source of council, and that's what, and practically that's what I think we can do on immediate term to resolve some of the problem at hand.
Okay, thank you so much. Adefolari Olamileko is a political economist. Many thanks for your contribution, sir.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be on your show on Global TV.
We'll definitely love to have you again on our platform.
That's been our issue. We always render our services to this platform like this, and kudos to Business Point on Global TV for good analysis and future questions to Agada.
Thank you, sir. Have a beautiful day ahead.
Thank you.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains on Business Point on Global Television. Don't forget that you can download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. You can also follow Global Television on all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. You can also watch Global Television on DSTV channel 365, on Star Times channel 276, and free to air on Nigecomsat. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching and see you again.